Everyone, I hope you're having an amazing day. Welcome to another episode of Platform App Builder Certification Series. So I was planning to do episode for data import and data export, but then I realized I've already covered that in my Platform Developer 1 series. So I've added the same lecture into this App Builder playlist because it's pretty much the same content, right? We're not using code anyway, so and nothing has been changed over the past 2 months. So that's pretty much. I think that's very relevant today. The same content, right? Okay, so what we're going to talk about today is it's about playlist. Picklist. So Picklist is a kind of it's a data type, right? Like if you remember, if you've been creating custom field, you might know that we got different custom field, right? We got date, we got currency, then we got text, we got picklist, we got multi-picklist, right? So we're gonna talk about picklist today. So the first thing I wanted to mention that you need to register for an org, right? It's my opening statement, right? So if you haven't done so, please register for one because you need to do hands-on. It's very important. So we're gonna talk about standard picklist first. So what is standard picklist is all about, right? So let me take you to Object Manager and take you to account, right? Account is the standard object, right, which is out of box, and we got standard fields that comes with account. So account source is one of the standard field. That's a picklist type. So this is what I call the standard picklist, which comes with the standard field as a part of a standard object. And you can see you can delete it. You can't delete this field, right? But you can add the types, right? Picklist types. Now you might wonder what is picklist, right? If you are someone who came from a programming background, picklist is like a combo box, right? Or in other words, in simple layman terms, right? You go to a Salesforce object, right? You have a field, right? Let's say account source. When you click on it, you will see a drop-down list, right, where different options. So that's pretty much what picklist is all about. And so what constitutes a drop-down? So these are all the values that constitutes a drop-down, right? Nice and simple, right? Okay, you can also add new, and you can also add different values to this the picklist. That's pretty much is all about the standard picklist, right? Now we have another picklist which I'm going to demonstrate. That's the custom picklist. Now custom picklist, you're going to create a custom field, right, of picklist type. That's what is called custom picklist. Now you might wonder, can we create a custom picklist for a standard object? Yes, you can. I mean, account is a standard object. You can create a custom field. It's like creating a custom field, right? Custom field of a type picklist. So you can create based on a business requirement, you can create a custom picklist. So now custom picklists are of two types. One is the multi-select, one is a single select. So multi-select is when you can choose multiple values from the same picklist, and single select is when you can only pick up one value, right? So let's demonstrate it. So what we're gonna do, I'm gonna select a custom object which I've created in one of my previous episodes. So we're gonna look for whiskey, right? So if you haven't watched my previous episode, I will highly encourage you to do so because you might wonder, right, what is this object is all about, right? This is not a standard object, this is a custom object which I've created. Okay, so go to field relationships, and you might wonder that you don't have much fields here, right, except this lookup which we've done in our last episode. So what we're going to do, we're going to create a picklist field called name of whiskey, and we're going to make it as a picklist field, right? So let's go to new and scroll down. So this is the data type what I'm talking about, right? Or the number of formulas, checkbox currency. So go to picklist here and go to next, and you can say name of whiskey, right? So I'll leave it there. Okay, so use global picklist values here, right? Forget about it for now. We're not going to deal with it in this episode. I'll talk about it in detail in the next episode. Cool. Okay, so now enter values. So this is where you're going to enter values of the, remember the types I told you when I demonstrated the count, standard picklist. So we're going to do the name of whiskey. So let's, my apologies, I'm not a whiskey drinker. I'm a beer lover, so I can talk about beers, all day, all night, but I can't talk much about whiskey because I don't prefer drinking much whiskey. But I'm gonna put up some names based on what I've been drinking in the past. So, okay, so Jack Daniels, right? Okay, Wild Turkey, uh, Red Label, Black Label, Blue Label, Green Label, right? Okay, so I think this will do the job. Okay, now if you wanted to display this in alphabetical order, right, when you go to that field, right, and you wanted to enter a value, so as you will see a drop-down list, right? So if you want the drop-down list to be in the alphabetic order, then I would expect you to tick this option, which is very handy, nice and easy, right? And if you want to have the first value as a default value, then you should tick this. In our case, we're not going to bother with that because it doesn't make sense to have a default whiskey name. But okay, let's say for the sake of argument, let's keep it here anyways, right? Cool. All right, so keep all the options same. And if you wanted to make this field mandatory, right, then you need to keep it as required like every other field option, right? By now, you should be fairly confident with required, how to make a field mandatory, right? So that's the option. So I'm going to make it visible for all and I'm going to save, right? Nice and easy, right? Nothing complicated here. So let's go to this tic-tac-toe icon and let's go to whiskey drinker objects. And let's create a new. Okay, and see, this is what I said. The default, it automatically populated the default value. And if you scroll down, it arranged in alphabetical order, right? So let's say I wanted to choose Wild Turkey. We can choose it and whiskey drinker name, test 1, 2, blah, blah, blah. So, and you can save it, right? Nice and easy, right? So that's what I meant when, that with that option, when I said, right, alphabetically arrange it, so it arranged in alphabetical order and pick up a default, first value as a default, right? So this will depend upon your business requirement, right? Sometimes you will have certain fields, right, where you want, especially in integration, right? So when an object gets created from an API, right, sometimes what happens is that API may not be sending some data. So if you wanted to default to a first value, so that is one of the scenario, right? There are different scenarios, but this is one of the scenario I have dealt with multiple times because I've done a lot of integration using code, right, using API. So that's a real life scenario I'm demonstrating. Cool. Okay. All right. Now we have talked about a Picklist with a single pickup value. What I mean by single pickup value is that you can only pick up one value, right? You can't pick up multiple here. So, right. So let's say you have a business requirement where you wanted to pick up more than one value, right? Where you wanted to select, let's say, Black Label and Jack Daniel together, right? For whatever reason, if this is a business requirement. So in that case, this pick list won't work. Absolutely not, because this is a single pick list. So you need to change this to a multiple pick list, right? Now, you need to be very careful when you're changing a field type because there could be a problem with data loss, right? When I talked about, if you remember when I talked about lookup and master detail relationship, I emphasized on the data integrity. It's very important, right? Before you commit any changes in terms of field type to a client, you need to understand about the data issue, right? Say you might be converting an integer to text or text to integer or other way around, right? Or other fields, right? There might be potential data loss, right? It may not happen, it may happen, depends upon the type of field you're converting from, right? So you need to pay special attention to those things, right? Okay, so what we're gonna do, when we convert to a whiskey drinker, right? So I'm gonna convert this field to a multiple pick list, right? In our case, right, in this scenario, there won't be any data loss. The reason why there won't be any data loss is because you're converting a single to multiple, which means that you already have one data selector, right? So it won't make any difference if you are converting to multiple. But if you're converting from a multiple to a single pick list, then there will be a data loss, because in multiple you might have selected 5 entries, right? And when you convert to a single pick list selection, right, it can only display 1 entry, right? So you need to keep that into consideration, right, before you change any field type. Okay, in our case, we're gonna do edit, and we're gonna do change field type, and you're gonna scroll down, and we're gonna do multi-select, right? Okay. So if you want it to be a default, that's fine, right? And you can keep it as the visible lines. Multiple are displayed in the scrolling box. If you want visible lines, you can just put it 2. This is a name of whiskey, right? This is a whiskey, sorry, whatever, right? Whiskey name list, right? It's always good to have a help text because it gives a better user experience, right? Go next and review below all the errors. Okay, must be greater. Okay, no, must be greater than. Okay, I'll just put 4. Okay, so save. All right, so I've converted this field to a multiple pick list type, right? Which is pretty straightforward. So we're gonna close this one and gonna go to whiskey drinkers, right? And let's go to this data first. You see, there's no change of data, right? It's pretty good now. See, this is what I'm talking about. Interface change, right? Before it was only one drop down. Now you see a multiple. There is 2, drag and drop options on, more back and forth options, right? So I wanted to add to here. I want to add here, right? Okay, and say, nice, right? So you can select multiple pick list value, which is fantastic. Now think about a scenario, right? It's other way around. So clients, comes to you and say, look, I don't want this field to be a multi-pick list. I wanted to change it to a single pick list. Whatever the business requirement, right? Business requirement at times is crazy. It depends on, sometimes businesses comes up with the crazy ideas, but they're paying for it. It's their business. They want this to be done in this way, so they will have their own reason to do it, right? Okay. So if you're a consultant and you understand what's the reason behind it, okay, you decide to change it. Now, if you're someone who don't pay much attention to the field data and say, oh yeah, we can do it, right? Let's say you are a consultant who didn't pay much attention to the data here. There is a very, very serious problem, because you need to pay very attention to the client data. Client data is very important. In today's time, data is the most important thing, right? If you screw up the client data, the client can sue you, right? So you need to pay attention to when you do a change, right? It's a part of experience. That's why I often, suggest that if you haven't done Salesforce before, then please do not go and take certification. You're not ready, because certification is not only about getting a certification by using dumps. It doesn't make it any sense and difference, because someone will figure out when you're doing your work. And in our place, right, where we do lots of Salesforce work. And I can figure out someone if he's really know the stuff or not, right, by looking at the stuff he does, right, especially on the code side of things. And so yeah, you can make out if a person really knows Salesforce or not. So you need to pay attention to data, right? It's very important. It's extremely important. So when you change a type from a pick list, multiple pick list, to a single pick list, you need to understand the implication behind it, right? Let's change it. Let's see first of all if it's possible or not, right? Okay, so go here, edit object, right? It will take you to that whiskey drinker page, relationship, and go to edit, change field type, Right, okay, now go to Picklist. Yeah, you see, you get a warning here. Changing to selected data type will cause you lose all the existing data in this field, right? And if you don't pay attention to that, then there is a problem, right? Okay, now you're gonna do this, and you're gonna whiskey name list, so it's just whiskey name. You change it, save, right? Okay. Now you have done this change. Now let's look at the data. What happened, right? So this is a test 1, 2, 3, right? I close this one. Now you see, it's gone. Now we have a serious problem here because the data gone. Data, there's no data associated with the name of whiskey. So this is why I wanted to make sure that you understand before you do any field type, change, field data type change. You need to understand the implication it will have on underlying data. It's very, very, very important. It's a critical part of your Salesforce design when you do a design of an object as well as field, right? Sorry, not an object. So this is very important. Pay attention to it. So from an exam point of view, you might get asked, right? What happens when you change a multiple pick list to a single pick list? Will there be a loss of data? Of course, there's a loss of data, right? As you can see, I've demonstrated it. And when you convert a single pick list to multiple pick list, will there's a loss of data? Not really, because you're actually converting from one to many option, right? So there won't be any data loss, right? So you need to understand this scenario and practice around it and think about from a business point of view when you have to encounter and what happens when you encounter such kind of scenario. If you encounter such kind of scenario, you need to talk to client about it because it's very important to understand. Right. Okay. All right. That's pretty much what I wanted to talk about today. Picklist. Sorry, I didn't mean to be mean when I mentioned that it's very important to know before you go and take a certification. What I meant by that, it's very important you to understand the concept and subject very well, right? Because there's no point in taking certification otherwise, right? I mean, I would when I have someone, right? I don't care if a person is certified or not. It doesn't matter to me, right? For me, what matters is whether he or she can do the job, right? Whether he or she understand the concept, right? I mean, it doesn't matter if someone with, if there's a person who has like 5 certifications, do not know what he or she is talking about, and the person who got no certification, but understand the topic very well and know how to do stuff, I would prefer to hire that person, right? I don't care about the certification at the end of the day, right? Because in a real-time scenario, certification is just a piece of paper. It doesn't make any difference, right? What matters is how much you know the concept, how much you know the topic, right? And whether you have a right attitude to learn it, right? I mean, not everyone knows everything, right? Salesforce is a big platform, right? It's impossible for everyone to know everything, right? But at least whatever you put in your resume, right? It's important you demonstrate that skill at least, right? Cool. Right, that's all I wanted to talk about today. So greetings and adios from New Zealand. Take care. Bye-bye.